Uh, Ladies, are there any more blue slips? No more blue slips. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me just ask, is there anyone in the audience who would like, in addition, to comment on this rulemaking procedure, the proposed rules and the hearing today? Is there anyone else who would like to comment? Okay, seeing no one else in the audience. I'm sorry. Sir, could you come right up here, identify yourself, then before you go out of the room, if you'd be good enough to fill out one of the blue forms and turn it over to the ladies, we would appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just listening to all the comments, and I thought I would...
Could you give us your name first?
Yes, okay. Steve Dinger.
Spell that last.
D-I-N-G-E-R.
D-I-N-G-E-R. Yes, Mr. Dinger.
Yes, I'm currently living in Discovery Bay, but I've been on or near the Delta for 40 years. A little history. We used to have saline water, brackish water, at the mothball fleet. And that was sort of a line back in the late 70s. And then it arrived in Pittsburgh. And as we noticed it, it started going up to Sacramento towards Rio Vista, and it was also going towards Antioch. Today, it's at Antioch. In fact, during the lean years of rain, we find it all the way to Bethel Island, and certainly it's pushed up the Sacramento River. Historically, you look at the perspective of that's what we have today in the canals. And in those 3 years of drought, we got really nailed. And that's in the habitat, the ecosystems, and certainly in the quality of the water throughout the Delta. That's a reality. I can understand why you might want to pump water, some of the best water, by the way, that the Delta ever sees, directly down south. It makes sense for the people down south. It does. It's automatic. The quality of water is good. But where I have a difficulty with is where the water will be better in the south than it will be here. And because of that saline solution going up the Delta, we're all going to be affected by it. And eventually, I know the historical perspective is eventually you'd have to put desal plants down south. But the problem is if you do what you're expecting to do, then we really have trouble because we'll have the desal plants right here in our backyard because the salt water will be here. And it will be very awkward to make good water out of that without doing the desals. Now, why you didn't start this process down south 20, 30 years ago, I have no idea, because there were times in the Monterey Peninsula when the droughts were happening that they were proposing having a desal plant right off of Monterey. So that's a historical perspective, and I just question. It's a little like the Fram oil filter commercial that says, we'll get you now or we'll get you later. And the reality is that's what's happening with our water. And it saddens me because so many people rely on it. And we have in business this idea of a product, and certainly water is a product, that there's a fixed cost and there's also a variable cost. And then it arrives at a total cost analysis. We're having trouble trying to calculate what the real cost of this project is. Because the reality of the fixed cost is one thing, but we all know, especially boaters and so on, that the cost of maintaining systems of this nature can be 10, 15% of the total actual cost. So put that in perspective when you start looking at total cost. And I think you'll start to come up with the idea that maybe this isn't the solution. And certainly there have been some excellent speakers this morning relating to the idea that we have the technology, we have the brain power. We need to do a better job at figuring out what the real total cost is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dinger.